Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto, and Yamaha introduced the R7 Super Sport bike a number of years ago to replace the spot left by the very beloved Yamaha R6. Some people greatly welcomed the introduction of the R7 with its CP2 parallel twin cross-plane crank engine, loved in the MT-07, the Tenere 700, and now here in this sport bike setup. But Yamaha has not been resting on its heels, as the R7 has gained market share that was lost over decades from the R7 for people looking for more affordable motorcycles and easier motorcycles to ride while still having that cool sport bike styling. So for 2026, we see a number of improvements here for the R7. And I'm sure I won't be able to list every single one here in front of you because Yamaha did quite a lot to this bike. But the overall ethos of the changes were to make the R7 just that much more livable here in the real world. I shouldn't say real world. I mean, tracking's not really a real world, is it? But more livable on the street while still maintaining and exceeding the performance on track. And some of the biggest highlights to execute both of those goals is a little bit of difference in geometry. You have a slightly higher handlebar placement now, slightly lower seat, slightly flatter seat, very large, the introduction of throttle by wire. And Yamaha did not cheap out. They gave us cruise control, they gave us speed limiter, they gave us multiple riding modes, sport, rain, street, custom, and then 4 different track modes. A 6-axis IMU plucked essentially right out of the Yamaha R9. A lot of the technology you see now here on the R7 is coming from the R9. It's essentially a baby R9 now. So now you have lift control, you have braking control and stability control, traction control, all of that built into this motorcycle here that costs just about $10,000 and is offered in 4 very, very cool colors. On top of that, we have this 5-inch TFT display. Right now you are seeing it in the sporty display mode. I've been playing with it throughout the day. We've actually just wrapped up our day of riding here, so you're going to see this intro, and then we're going to be transported here to the beginning of the day. You'll notice a lot less sunshine. You have turn signals integrated into the mirrors, and you know, in some ways I think that's cool, especially if you're going to track this bike, then it's one less thing to cover up or remove. However, I was thinking, if you're somebody who likes to remove these big old mirrors and put on something like bar end mirrors, what are you going to do about turn signals for the front? So that's something to consider. The bike is also even more aerodynamic than it was before. The R7 was already the most aerodynamic Yamaha R bike, and it is just that much more aerodynamic now. We also have a slightly different intake on the bike now, so it's got a little bit of a more growly, raspy note, but as you will see when we are out on the road, I, for one, think a pipe is necessary. The bike sounds very Euro 5'd, if you will. It's a pretty cool engine up under there, and it's just missing that kind of growl factor that I think an aftermarket exhaust could remedy. But fortunately, Yamaha seems to factor that into the pricing. Again, $10,000 for this. You could do a whole lot worse. So today we're going to head out for a robust ride up in the mountains, out through the canyons. We're going to be doing some highway as well because we do have cruise control. So we're going to experience this bike in all its street glory. No tracking included today. One last thing I should point out, spin-forged wheels, which is a Yamaha exclusive process that is supposed to reduce the weight of these wheels by 4% compared to the cast wheels that we had on the 2025 model R7. Yeah, all in. Some pretty exciting stuff. But does that mean you should rush out and upgrade your R7 if that's what you got? Well, we're going to talk on that a little bit, but short answer right up front here, I would say, is no. But maybe you should upgrade to an R9. So let's talk about it. Here we are. We got a great view right here of the 70th anniversary, the Team Racing Blue, and the fun one. I don't know. I don't know what they call this livery here, but it's loud. I like them doing fun colors. I don't know. I would certainly be between these two right here, and you can really see this angle of the tank right here. It's got this kind of early 80s-ish sort of vibe. I'm almost kind of getting the new XSR design language out of this one. it's not as soft and bubbly as kind of the previous one and as kind of some of their other sport bikes. This is Rennie here. He's 6'1", just kind of seeing, very comfortably reaching the ground. Looks like he's about flat foot probably on both sides. The seat is still a little bit wide, but it's a little bit flatter. Yeah. Yep, a little bit shorter for this year. And then when he kind of comes down onto it, leaning forward. The very, very subtle adjustments here for 2026, but it's supposed to just bring the handlebars up ever so slightly, seat down ever so slightly. Theoretically, throughout this long ride today, we all should be just that much more comfortable being on street as opposed to being on track. Throwing on our Revit dirt gloves in sand color. That always cracks me up for some reason. It's been a minute since I've been on the old CP2. But this one, improved airbox for this year. It's supposed to make it a little more growly. Okay, and we got that throttle by wire. Very adjustable clutch lever. 14 different levels of adjustment. I think on both sides, clutch and brake. Kind of a new way to do that. Sort of nifty there. Fully adjustable suspension. And for 10,000 smackaroons. It'll be interesting being out on a super sport all day. And where in the world are these blinkers? And we do have Yamaha's quick shifter, both up and down now for 2026. Let's start utilizing that here now that our motor and transmission are getting warm. Ooh. Now that we got throttle by wire, it can cut power just as it needs to do those shifts. Feeling good. Up here on the highway with the R7, we start to appreciate some of the new features for 2026, primarily cruise control. And I really appreciate Yamaha bringing cruise control to this bike, because if you're gonna go to throttle by wire on a modern motorcycle, there's virtually no excuse not to have cruise control. You pretty much only have two excuses. One, you don't want to pay for the switchgear and the programming, which, okay, I don't know how much cheaper that's going to make the bike, but you could see it that way. Or two, you want to be able to either upsell to a more premium model if you're going to have a special edition or something like we had with the MT-09 for a while there, or if you want to be able to add something in a few years in order to refresh the bike, then you add cruise control. So I appreciate that Yamaha went right away here, though. Right away when you got throttle by wire, they slapped on the cruise control. And not only do you have cruise control, but another nifty feature, which you may or may not be using all the time on an R7, but certainly even more useful on something like an R9, is speed limiter. That means I could press this cruise control button one more time and then set a speed limit. So let's try it right now. So now if I accelerate hard up to 80, okay, it starts tapering off the power right about 80 miles per hour. That could be useful if you're somebody who needs a little bit of extra help with your throttle discipline on public roads, or if you're on a pit lane with a certain speed, you could leave that unset for most of your track riding, and then when you come into pit road, click that button, and then it's going to keep you, so you don't have to be pinned down looking at your speedometer or anything like that. You can simply rely on the speed limiter. We are dialed up into sport mode, getting off the highway and onto some of the most beautiful back roads of Southern California, down here coming up toward Palomar Mountain. And of course you get stuck behind traffic. Just another reason that you can appreciate the R7's slightly more relaxed ergonomics, when you'd love to be bent over and drag a knee through some of these corners, but you're stuck behind what appears to be something like a Mazda 3. So at that point you can lean up a little bit, stretch your arms out, wiggle things, play around with some of the tech. So we have switched from street ride mode into sport. Throttle more responsive, quick shifts more aggressive. And with the new 6-axis IMU, there's a ton of adjustability happening in each riding mode. You're getting adjustments in braking. You're getting adjustments in traction control, slip control, wheelie/lift control, as Yamaha would want me to call it. When I first started out for the ride this morning, I felt street mode was a little soft. It was a little muted, at least in the accelerator response. Fortunately, Yamaha has a custom mode for you. So you can go in there, customize 1 through 3 with essentially everything I just listed out for you there to really get this bike right where you'd want it. I've also had a little bit of time now to play around with at least the initial customization of this 5-inch TFT display. And I think it's pretty darn cool how you get these 3 segments in the bottom of the screen where you can customize what you see. So, very easy to do, clearly, considering we're riding through these twisty roads, and I can still sort of explain them to you here, but you can cycle through, and each third of the bottom part of the screen is customizable to pretty much all of the information. So, if you want to see fuel and coolant temp and distance to empty, you can see that. If you want to flip around, you could have 3 fuels if you wanted. I like that customization. I like that it's very easy to do. It's not like you have to dive into a menu and hold buttons down or anything to customize what you're seeing. Wow, we have averaged 63 miles per gallon so far in this trip. That's remarkable, because that was with a good amount of highway riding. Nice. I have to get this bike back and do a DM commuter fuel economy test. Like where the red line is, because it sounds like you should be hitting rev cut, and then you have about an extra 1,000 RPM left. It doesn't pull on the top end with a veracity that you'd want or expect from something like an inline 4, but I do appreciate that it doesn't have a characteristically low red line. It's nice to get it to rev out and scream a little bit up there. Interestingly, plastic around the fuel tank. I don't know if that means we have a metal fuel tank underneath. I kind of doubt it. Seems like we got a plastic fuel tank. That does take away a little bit from the kind of feel of this bike. I mean, I understand why they'd be using more plastic. You want to keep weight down and you want to keep costs down. So it's not really something to blame. But if you're coming off of an older 600 or something, a little bit more of a classic hardy feel of metal, then something you might be missing here on the R7. But other than that, everything feels, I actually am not totally sold on this blinker mechanism either. It's totally functional, but it just is a little bit more chunky feeling. The bike kind of has this interesting combination of svelte and chunky at the same time. What is that, slim thick? Yeah, slim thick here for the R7. We also have the turn signals built into the mirrors, so you can see some kind of daytime running lamp looking on that R7 as it goes by. Pros and cons to that, obviously. If you're using this bike on track, you only got fewer things you got to cover up or remove. But if you do lay this bike down and damage one of these mirrors, it's going to be that much more expensive to mend it. So, again, pros and cons. Some people also don't particularly love the chunkiness look of these mirrors. Also, can you replace the mirrors now without losing your blinkers that easily? I don't know. That's a great question. Could you put bar end mirrors? And in that case, where do your blinkers go? Standing here waiting to do some photo. Great opportunity to shout out our gear today. We are kitted in Revit gear. We got the Boundless boots, the Ortez jeans, the off-track jacket, and the dirt gloves. Now these are admittedly a bit of a tame style for a sporty bike like this, but I went with this gear because I ride all sorts of different bikes, and I wanted something that is going to kind of look fitting, at least appropriate, on just about any sort of motorcycle. Not only that, everything's incredibly versatile. You can ride it in the cold, you ride it in the warm. I've had the vents closed up for this morning when it was all foggy, and then opened up here standing out in the hot heat. So been very happy with that. You can see the venting open right now. The dirt gloves are in sand color. I find that funny. Dirt, sand. Let's check out the link below if you want to check out the Rivet gear. Also got our Arai Contour X helmet on. Love being nice and visible with this colorway. Nice helmet there. And of course we got our Helite H-Move backpack, keeping me safe. Here we go with all 4 color options on the R7. And there is that beautiful Raven there at the end. Very nicely set. I don't know which one I would go with. What do you guys think? I'm such a sucker for Team Yamaha Blue. Used to be a sucker for the anniversary colors. I'd like a little checker on it though. Somebody pointed out that the bright blue, the cyan, is going to be more of a collector, and those wheels are hot. But then also, there's just something about a black Super Sport. Either way, I'm just thankful that they did give us colors. How many bikes are we getting these days that don't come with fun colors? Very nice. It's pretty cool to have sort of a middleweight, approachably priced and spec'd bike that you can kind of learn and get comfortable with and settle into. That's the cool thing with super sport and sport bikes. They reward building a relationship with the motorcycle. Kind of learning more how I can lean into the bike, where I can position my body to make the bike work with me rather than against me. But at the same time, it's not offensive if you're not riding it perfectly. There is still an immediateness that I'm missing a bit from the accelerator. I can't blip it and have it really respond in a sharpness. There's still a little bit of softness there, and you know, I'm in sport mode. Maybe I need to try track, but it is power 1, so I don't know. But look at this road, my goodness. I'm getting a surprising amount of heat on my inner upper thighs, or rather lower thighs, I suppose, right by my knee, kind of just general inner thigh, especially on the left side. It does build up a bit on the right as well, but the left is getting a ton of heat. I can cool it right down just sort of by spreading them, but it is something that I have not experienced often. This section of mountain road has been a great opportunity to feel out the suspension. And no surprise that with these more advanced shocks, it's taken it really nicely. It's not like we're dealing with adventure bike levels of suspension travel or anything like that, but the bike isn't getting upset. And also, I'm not getting upset, getting jarred over any of these bumps. It's really absorbing these bumps nicely but firmly so as not to jostle the bike or make me uncomfortable on a longer ride like this. Now, by no means are these rough potholed city roads, but should give you at least a little bit of an idea that this shock package really is the real deal. I am a bit back and forth on the bar placement. I understand that they wanted to go a little bit more daily livable for this refresh of the R7, but when I'm really just comfortably tucked in, I feel like I got the dinosaur arms a little bit. They're kind of back more than I'd like. I'd like to have even more weight up and forward, and I mean, obviously every ergonomic decision brings some sort of trade-off, and then the trade-off with this one is having a little bit less engaged riding position. Yamaha took a look at their target demo and who's buying these bikes now that the R9 is out there, and I said, all right, well, the R7 is going to be used a little bit more daily perhaps, and we should accommodate that slightly more. But if you are coming off of a sportier bike, a real super sport, 4-cylinder or something, you might feel like your shoulders are back and your hands are back more than you'd like. Also, that exhaust note, man, do we need an aftermarket exhaust on here. I'm not even a big put a pipe on it sort of guy. I like my bikes quiet, but I want them to sound good. And yeah, the intake sounds nice when you're on it. But I was talking with one of the other riders out here while we were stopped doing photos, and we both pointed out that the bike sounds great when somebody else is riding it. But when you're on here, you just want a little more growl, a little more rasp maybe from that CP2, and not getting it. I know there's emissions requirements and noise requirements, so I'm not saying it's necessarily Yamaha's fault. I'm just saying, if you're purchasing an R7, maybe budget in a aftermarket pipe as well. And you know what? I actually kind of commend Yamaha for maybe not adding too much cost to the purchase price of the bike, doing more of an advanced exhaust, figuring out how to make it sound a little better, because they know, hey, a lot of people are just going to take it off anyway, so why don't we just keep it basic, keep it simple, and get the price a little bit lower so you can budget for that aftermarket exhaust. And that leads me to this theory that now that the R7 comes here standard with the 6-axis IMU and the cruise control and all the rider aids and the ABS and all of that, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Yamaha released a track edition of this motorcycle where it comes without a lot of that the elements that many track focus riders are simply going to remove. Now I suppose they also might just have the theory that, okay, well, that's not this bike, and you can go buy yourself something like a ZX6R without ABS and fewer traction and rider modes and everything, if that's really what you want. So maybe they'll do that. But I could see them charging the same price for a bike that has less if you simply plan on taking it to the track regularly. The brakes, love those brakes. Nothing really revolutionary changed with them for 2026, probably because they didn't need changing. They feel fantastic. Nice grab, nice bite, very progressive. Exactly what I'd want out of a braking package at this price point with this sort of bike. It's a bike for the streets. It's a bike for the real world. You can have fun on track, but gosh, can you have fun on the road? See, this is why you all don't see a ton of super sport bike coverage on the Moto. Because look at how all three of those riders in front of me here are riding. They got one hand off. I don't know if I would go as far as to say they're bored, but they certainly wish we were going faster. And we're doing 75 miles per hour down back roads right now behind traffic. So it's not like we're even going slow. It's just even a middleweight sport bike like this is comfortable and capable of doing so much more. So I'm not one to want to get on a machine like this and then only ride it doing a fraction of what it's capable of. Now obviously this bike has so many track functions built into it that it belongs to be on the track at many times. You've got the functionality where you can have pit messages sent to you on your screen right there. You can record track times. You got 4 different track modes which you can customize and fine-tune and tailor with all those electronic aids. So I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding why Yamaha made this a little bit more of a street-friendly bike when I take it back. I get it. I understand that people buy bikes that don't have any business being out on public roads and riding legal speeds and then use them out on public roads riding legal speeds. However, I don't understand tailoring a bike toward that when people are just going to buy a bike that's not meant for this at all. I have done these roads on many different types of motorcycles, and yes, this bike was a hoot holler and a half, climbing up Palomar Mountain and coming back down, but then for all the time that we've been stuck in traffic, I'd rather be on an MT or even a Tenere 700, and there are plenty other ways of getting my CP2 fix here. And then, when the traffic does clear and I do get an opening, if I'm on a sport bike like this, I want to really bring it out and I want to be thrust to the back of my seat. This motor isn't quite doing that. Now again, I have no problems with the power level from a general daily rider sort of standpoint, but if I'm going to be on a machine that feels like a track-ready racing experience, give me something that's going to scare me a little bit more. Give me something like at least the R9 where I got to be really careful when I get it up above 14,000 RPM, you know? I think about my buddy's ZX6R, which costs just about as much as this, and that bike, you better be ready and holding on once you really bring it out. And, you know, it's got enough power to be ridden daily, and no problems with that and everything, but there is a wow factor on something like that just isn't here with the R7. It's competent, it's capable, it's plenty fast enough, but if I'm going to be in this engaged riding experience, give me something that's really gonna scare me, or at least surprise me or excite me. I've been on this bike for half a day now, and I'm already like, okay, I get it. But very impressive, Yamaha. Very good, very cool. And none of that is to fault the R7 or to fault Yamaha. It's to inform you as a viewer and a potential shopper and a rider that, right, if you're gonna be buying a bike like this, you really have to be honest with yourself about why you want a bike like this. And if it's to really be wowed, maybe you go with the R9. Bringing together my thoughts here on the R7, so they made it a better street bike. But is that what this bike is? Is it a better street bike? Ultimately, within Yamaha's 700cc lineup, I would argue no. There's an MT-07 running around with us here with one of the Yamaha staffers on it. He's probably a lot more comfortable right now. He's you know, getting a little bit more wind on him, sure, but he's probably sitting nice and upright. Wrists are good. And then again, if you were out here on a Tenere, then you could be nice and comfortable and then zip up any one of these dirt hills if you find it and want to play around that way. So, is this a better motorcycle? I mean, you'd have to ride it back to back with the previous R7 on track and find that out. I can't imagine that any of the changes they made make this a worse track bike. The chassis feels phenomenal. The brakes are great. The engine pulls confidently. All of the electronics are going to allow you to more confidently improve lap times at any sort of tracking event. They didn't have to aggressively raise the price by any means. So, did they make a better motorcycle? Sure. Is it a better bike than the 2025 model for street riding? Yes. Does that mean it's the right bike in this class to go do street riding on? I would say no. To me, if I'm just going to be kind of taking it around roads like this and riding daily, give me something like the Ninja 650, which is more comfortable. And yes, not nearly as advanced, but a good bit cheaper. Or give me something that's really going to impress me. Give me an R9, give me a ZX6R, give me a CB600RR, something that I'm really going to feel the cons of sport bike riding are worth the pros. So ultimately, do I think this is a great streetable super sport? Totally. I absolutely do. I think it's got the suspension, it's got the broad power band, it's got the electronics, the safety aids, everything you're going to want in a bike like this to ride and use on the street. For me, it's missing a little bit of that pizzazz that I want on a bike like this. Extreme competence does not a perfect motorcycle make. So can you get an R7 and have a fantastic bike on track or on the street? 100%. I don't want you to take away from this video that this isn't a great bike, but just be cognizant of what type of ride you want to ride, and make sure, and I know it's tough to get out and test ride motorcycles these days at dealerships, but just know that this is a tame and approachable bike, and some people are looking for a little bit more than that. Bring it around and get one more good look at this bike, because I do quite appreciate the styling. I really do. I think Yamaha did a fantastic job with just about every element of this bike. You just need to make sure it's what you want. Unfortunately, Yamaha gives it to you in 4 awesome colors to help it be what you want. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the R7, check the link below. We should have a little no talking ride. I think that's going to turn out pretty well here if you want to just hear the bike and feel what it's like from the seat. Cool bike, just a little bit strange to be stuck in a super sport sort of position without that super sport sort of thrill. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Moto, and as always, ride on.